What's going on, baseball fans? How are we doing? So what if the Red Sox had never signed Koji Uehara? Well, it almost didn't happen. Let's go talk about it. Okay, so here we go. Koji Uehara, man oh man, I loved me some High Five City. In 2013, he was so good. He was practically unhittable that year. And believe it or not, he was actually not even the closer to begin the year. Let's kind of go back in time a little bit, shall we? So after the 2011 season, remember the Red Sox just completely fell apart at the end of that season. After that, they got right to work. They brought in Andrew Bailey to be the closer. He was one of the best relievers in the game at that point. In the deal, they sent Josh Reddick, Miles Head, and Raul Alcantara to Oakland. But Andrew Bailey, he was never really healthy for the Red Sox. He pitched a bit, but he was never really able to stay on the field. Then, after the 2012 season, the infamous Bobby Valentine season, they ended up going out and getting Joel Hanrahan. Remember, they also had Mark Melancon that season, but he was so bad. So they sent him, Jerry Sands, Ivan DeJesus Jr., and Stolmy Pimentel in that deal back to Pittsburgh. And hey, remember this deal as well. It didn't, yes, Joel Hanrahan ended up just blowing out his arm, but they also got Brock Holt back in this deal. So I guess it kind of worked out. But the main piece, Joel Hanrahan, he was amazing for the Pirates. And like I said, his arm just completely blew out. So with the Red Sox, they ended up signing Koji Uehara to be the setup guy. Andrew Bailey, he was back for the 2013 season. He pitched in the first half, but it couldn't really last all that long. So Koji Uehara ended up becoming the closer. Now, why is this significant? Well, taking a look here at FanGraphs, every Sunday they always post their Sunday notes, and they had a conversation with Ben Cherington, who was the general manager for the Red Sox at that time. So, very interesting comments here. He says here, the signing of Koji Uehara happened largely because of the advocacy of others in our office. Not that I didn't appreciate Koji, but at the time it felt like we had other guys. We had just traded for Hanrahan in the Melancon deal, who we hoped would solidify the back end of the game. Yet we had people, Zach Scott was one of them, who were really pushing to sign Koji. A good process from folks in our office helped make up for my mistakes in trades. That's crazy because the head guy wasn't even, like you said, he liked Koji, but he wasn't really, motivated to sign him. They had to have other guys. He had to have other guys, talk in his ear, be like, hey, come on. We got to get this guy. Koji can be a really good setup guy for us. And thank God they did, because Koji Uehara, my goodness, he ended up being one of the best. He had one of the best seasons of all time. If you take a look at all of the seasons from relievers going back all the way to 1871, Koji Uehara ranked 59th all time. That season was so good. He pitched in 73 games. He had 74 and a third innings, over 12 strikeouts per nine, right around a walk per nine, right around a half a home run per nine. He had a 1.09 ERA, a 1.61 FIP, a 2.08 xFIP. Holy cow. He practically saved that bullpen. If you go take a look here, like I said, Hanrahan, he just basically blew his arm out. Andrew Bailey ended up having shoulder issues, so those guys were gone. They did have Andrew Miller, but he ended up getting hurt as well. So if they did not have Koji in this bullpen, oh my, I don't even know who would have been the closer. I would imagine it would have been Junichi Tozawa. He was pretty good that year as a setup guy. I wonder how he would have done as a closer. Craig Breslow was a good lefty arm for them that year. He had a 1.81 ERA. So it would have been interesting to see who would have been the closer. My guess would have been Junichi, but you never know. Koji Uehara, he changed the game for the Red Sox that year. Remember that year with the Red Sox? People were not considering this team to be, a very good team. They had brought in guys like Mike Napoli, Johnny Gomes, Shane Victorino, guys who were kind of coming off not great seasons, but the Red Sox that year put it all together. And without Koji, I'm not sure where this team would have gone. And believe it or not, that year, if the Red Sox, now this is kind of speculation here, but if you see here, he had a FanGraph WAR of 3.1. So let's say Koji never went to the Red Sox. So that, let's just, do some math here. Let's take away those 3 wins. The Red Sox, they would have won 94 games. Now, that would have taken them out of the number one spot in the playoffs. That would have gone to Oakland, who had 96 wins. So the Red Sox, they would have been the number 2 seed. That would have completely changed the playoffs. So let's go take a look at the bracket. So this was the bracket in 2013 in the American League. The Rays had just beaten the Cleveland Indians at the time in the wild card game to advance to play the Red Sox. However, let's say if we were living in this dimension, the Red Sox had 3 less wins without Koji. Let's say the A's would have now had moved into the number 1 seed. We would have seen the Red Sox and the A's flip here. So the Red Sox would have ended up playing the Tigers in the first round, and then the A's would have played the Rays in the first round. So we never would have had that American League Championship Series between the Tigers and the Red Sox, because that would have been in the division round. And then you would have had a fun matchup in the first round here. So who knows how the Rays and the A's would have gone. That could have been a completely different series. The Red Sox beat the Rays in 4 games. I could have seen this Rays-A's series maybe going 5. I mean, the Tigers and the Red Sox, if we go take a look here, let's say they ended up playing in the first round. So in the American League Championship Series, the Red Sox won this series 4 games to 2. Oh, I'll always remember that Shane Victorino grand slam. Still lives in my head. But if you take a look here, Koji Uehara was huge in this series. He ended up getting the win. Remember, David Ortiz had the grand slam to tie the game. And then Jared Saltalamacchia had the walk-off hit there. And Koji Uehara ended up getting the win. He got the save in Game 3 in a 1-0 game. That was the Mike Napoli home run game off of Verlander. And then Koji ended up getting the save in Game 5 as well. So if it was the best out of 5, and Koji doesn't pitch in these 3 games, who knows how this series would have gone. This Tigers team was extremely good. They had the best starting pitching in all of Major League Baseball at that time. I remember going into that American League Championship Series, I was afraid of this Tigers team. You had just arms all over the place. Scherzer, Verlander, Anibal Sanchez. They had gotten Doug Fister. You even had a younger Rick Porcello at the time. Man, you know, this was a really good pitching staff, and to play these guys in 5 games without Koji Uehara, who knows how this series would have gone. Let's say the Red Sox ended up beating the Tigers in that first round. You would have had some really good teams. The A's, they had some great teams that year. Josh Donaldson, Bartolo Colon was on top of his game that year. Taking a look at Bartolo Colon that year, he went 18-6. He had a 2.65 ERA and a 3.23 FIP. You had guys like AJ Griffin, Jared Parker, who were doing pretty decent. And then on the offense, you had Josh Donaldson was really good for the A's that year. Hit 301 with a 384 on base, a 499 slugging. He had 24 homers and 93 RBIs. Brandon Moss had 30 RBIs that year. Coco Crisp was pretty solid for the A's. And maybe the Red Sox could have played the Rays. Evan Longoria was on top of his game at that time. Ben Zobrist was a really good player. You had Alex Cobb and David Price atop the rotation. Will Myers was coming off of that really good season. Don't forget, you also had Chris Archer there. They had a good bullpen. Either one of these teams in a 7-game series would have been tough. So who knows what would have happened if the Red Sox had never signed Koji Uehara. I think this entire postseason could have happened in a much different way without Koji. Thank God the Red Sox got Koji, and thank God that people in the front office were able to convince Ben Cherington to sign this guy, because without him, who knows? But let me know what you think down below in the comments. What do you think would have happened? Do you think the Red Sox would have won the World Series in 2013 without Koji? I'm very interested to see what you think. But that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.